Welcome to Sib Spot. Today's Reddit stories are from PettyRevenge. Story 1 is by Minky Mink. Guy gets out of his car to attack me physically, quickly changes his mind. I'm driving home today on a side street. I'm tootling along going the speed limit when a guy suddenly pulls in front of me from a parking space at the curb. Slow enough and recklessly enough where I almost hit him. He had no turn signal on. He seems lost, so I slow way down. He then proceeds in front of me very, very slowly, blocking the flow of traffic, weaving back and forth. He then starts to turn right, so I slow even more. Then he very abruptly veers in front of me, wildly left, cutting me off completely, so I slam on my brakes and honk my horn once to warn him. This idiot stops his car literally sideways in the middle of the street, blocking me, blocking traffic in both directions. He then rolls down his window, starts flipping me off, and commences to scream at me. I just sit there in my car wondering if he's lost his mind. He then opens his car door, still screaming at me, still flipping me off, gets out of his car and starts threatening me with beating me up. I'm a small woman. I calmly pick up my phone, do not roll down my window. My car doors are locked, and I simply and very obviously start recording him. He continues to march up to my car, yelling at me. The minute he sees me recording him on my cell phone, he abruptly stops screaming. All at once, he becomes meek as a mouse and very politely, somewhat bizarrely, attempts to explain himself. My window is still up. I am still recording him. When I do not stop recording or put the phone down, do not react to him, and do not say a word, he then turns on his heel, runs to his car, and drives off in the opposite direction like a bat out of heck. Funny how the threat of making an a-hole go viral, possibly lose his job, and expose him to the world as the a-hole that he is, possibly a drunk a-hole, almost immediately altered what could have been a police report and an assault into a frightened rabbit turning tail and running away terrified. Not sure if this is revenge, but it is pretty petty all the way around. Our next story is by Zany Chonk. Arrogant Interviewee. A pretty senior global functional head role. After tracking him down, I set up a video call with a potential candidate. He was located in a different country, but was the same nationality as me. After a pleasant enough opening 10 minutes, he started laying down the law. I expect a significantly larger remuneration package, and I expect your client to pay for me in full to relocate, etc., etc. I decided this wasn't the person that was going to be moving forward with the role for which I was recruiting, not least because he had done zero research on my client. Always a really bad sign. I wanted to show enough professional respect and stuck on the call for another 15 minutes. He took this opportunity to bury himself deeper into my bad books. He then rambled on about having back-to-back video calls all day and that he was glad I was his last call. It was then that I told him, "Look, you seem to be a pretty talented person, but I'm not taking you forward for this role. I have a number of equally well-qualified candidates who are taking this role more seriously, so I can't risk putting you in front of my client when your motivation seems to be focused on remuneration rather than an opportunity with a great company." He was crestfallen. I think he realized that he was cocky and had overplayed his hand and mucked it up. He started backtracking, trying to be a little bit more humble, but I pulled him up with my petty revenge. I said to him, "I can see what you're doing here and I understand, but it's too late at this point. Sorry. Also, if I'm your last call today, I certainly hope you at least had underpants on for all your previous calls." I went on to tell him that his camera was angled towards a mirror in his hotel room. Although he was wearing a business shirt which covered his backside, when he leaned forward you could clearly see he was wearing no underpants or trousers. He quickly apologized and disconnected, then emailed me another very groveling apology days later, which I graciously accepted. That was about a year ago, and I have not heard a thing from him since. I never shared his name with anyone else. I would never do that. Nevertheless, I suspected he was a darned sight more humble after that call than when he started. "Geez, OP, it really seems like you were searching the bottom of the barrel. when you came to this guy. Down in the comments by Become JVG. Sir, we were looking for a larger package too. Oh my gosh. Our next story today is by Spiritual Pickle 4406. My aunt and cousin's lives are going up in flames and I'm momming popcorn. M-A-M-I-N-G. I did a Google search for it and there is no word M-A-M-I-N-G, but I've seen people talking about mamming or momming popcorn. When playing online video games and chats and stuff, you see people talking about momming food. I'm pretty sure that's how they would say it, but I've never had to say the word out loud until today. I'm a 21 female. My grandparents started their own business when they were younger. They worked hard until they were successful. Since then, all of their children and their spouses have worked there. My mother left us about 5 or so years ago. My uncle left after about 5 or so years, but my aunt, the eldest of the 3, never did. My grandparents bought 2 houses way back when it was still affordable, and my aunt, my uncle, and 2 cousins, 21 female and 26 male, all live in one while my grandparents lived in another. For the last 30 or 35 years, my aunt has been living off everything my grandparents built. It's nepotism, and I'll gladly admit it. The only time she and my uncle and any of my cousins talk to my grandparents is when they want money. Recently, my grandparents decided to retire, so they're selling the business. The same business that my aunt and uncle thought they would inherit. The same business that is the reason they have been living rent-free for almost 30 years. The same business that she held over our heads all these years. I love my aunt and cousins, but I can see the nepotism. They always expect everything without any hard work. The only thing they see is the injustice being done upon them, not the fact that for the first time in decades, our grandparents will be able to breathe and relax. They always held their money over us and acted as our superiors. We were given the same money. We just didn't touch ours because we don't see it as our money. We didn't do anything to earn it yet. Now they're probably going to go broke and lose everything, and I'm here for it. Reap what you sow, self-righteous idiots. Your grandparents are getting old, so they sold the business. That was their choice. They built the business, they're selling the business. For your aunt to sit around and think that they're going to inherit the business or they're going to get the money from the business, it's pretty absurd. She already has a house that she gets to stay in, that she doesn't have to pay for. That in itself is a massive gift. You have a home. Our last story today is by Luna Ray 55. Refuse to switch seats? I'll treat you to my melodious voice. So I was going home by bus, I should have taken the train by the way, one evening and had the misfortune of finding a seat between 2 people. The way this bus was, one row had 2 seats, aisle, and then the other row had 3 seats. I sat in the row between 2 people and they recognized each other and started catching up. They went to university together and hadn't seen each other at all. This was going to be at least a 45 minutes drive given the several stops and traffic. It was uncomfortable for me as they were talking across me and I just needed some quiet. I know this is public transport and all. So I asked them if they'd like to switch seats and they both refused. I put on my earphones and tried to shut them out, but I couldn't, given that one party had stale breath. I was listening to a song and I decided to sing out loud. Loud enough they couldn't get to hear each other. They stopped talking and I kept quiet. They started talking and I started singing again. Any time they'd talk, I'd sing. It went on for a few minutes and then they stopped talking altogether and I had a smoother ride home. I didn't care if someone would record me. I was just too irritated. Lol. Part of me thinks this might have been set up as a prank. Like, they deliberately didn't move to sit closer to each other and they were both talking right in front of you to each other. That would drive me crazy too. Like, get out of my personal space. You move over here or you move over there and we'll be good. But it was pretty rude of them to not move closer together if they're going to talk over you like that. So, you found a good fix. And honestly, I hope that you can't carry a tune for their sake. Our stories for today have come to a close. Until we meet again, have a melodious day.